I like to call it a calling for me, like a mission. For my in my experience, I started watching porn when I was a teenager, like most people.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what's interesting about my situation is I grew up in a faith-based family and home, and it's a very dissonant kind of feeling to have a value that you cherish personally and you live up to, and have a deep dark secret that is totally un out of integrity and this
Mm-hmm.
deep dark shadow. And I know a lot of people resonate with that too, especially people that I work with in
Mm-hmm.
mentorship. And so
Totally.
when I was 16 years old, that's when I got super serious about beating porn, masturbation. And I did abstain for 3 years. And I thought I like
Mm-hmm.
totally beat this thing. And I was really serious about preparing to be in a relationship, preparing to be, a man, and to be a husband and to be a father one day. And then, so I felt really good about it. And at that time, I decided to start reaching out to people like my brothers and people in my life to actually see how I can help them also achieve this victory over porn, because I know how much like confidence it zaps from your life. And
Mm-hmm.
and then after 3 years of being clean, found my wife, we got married. And then what was really saddening is that very quickly after we were married, I had a strong relapse, which is really, really common actually for people to have. And
Yep.
I went back to porn. And of course I felt totally destroyed that this happened to me. And I didn't tell her for a while, but at the same time, I was still mentoring people and helping people, right? This porn thing.
What do you attribute that to? The relapse, do you know?
Relapse. I think I really put my guard down. I really thought, oh, I'm clean, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm perfect. The ego took over. And then I very quickly relapse, because it's a very slippery slope. Like I teach our guys, it's you're trying to maintain your footing at the top of a mountain. It's a slippery slope. And if you don't maintain your footing, you're going to slide in the ditch and relapse. But it's up to you to decide if you get up and how you get up, or you're just going to slide all the way back down. And that's what I let myself do. Because of the guilt and shame that was associated with it, I spiraled, and I just felt like I can't do it. And I didn't let it just be like a one-time slip and then move on. I couldn't just keep climbing the mountain. And then, of course, it just escalated. And then to the point where I really had to get serious again, get that motivation back. But it wasn't until I realized, and this is what I fundamentally teach, is that you can't get to that place of being intensely serious about beating porn until you understand how much porn is taking away from you. Until you get that, you will always keep porn as a benefit, as a crutch, because in your mind, the benefit of keeping the porn with you outweighs the negative impacts. But it doesn't. But your brain thinks that. Does that make sense?
It does, totally.
Right. So when I understood like porn is taking away my life, and I can't fully be present with my wife, I can't love my wife, can't love my kids because of this dark secret in my life, and I'm living out of integrity with my beliefs. So when I really understood that, and it like brought me to tears, and like, I got to do something about this. And that was really like the catalyst that made me really change and really get serious about this. So it's been, incredible, 6-7 years since then, since, last slipping up. But so my journey is like, now I get what it's like to be a young man and to be a husband, to have bring a porn habit into a relationship, and really understand like what that does to you and how distraught you feel from that experience.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I have two things to share about that, if it's okay. Is that number one is that energetically, from your brain, when I talk about energy, I'm talking about the brain performance pattern that your brain uses. And then it has emotional correlates that come off and changes your state depending upon how your brain is performing. Shame is the lowest energy. And there's a book, I always talk about it. It's called Power versus Force by David Hawkins, Dr. David Hawkins. I don't know if you've heard about it, but he talks about shame as being the lowest emotional correlate of energy, and it resonates really low. And that's what sucks you back into this hole. But basically, it's the opposite of integrity. And that's why guilt can be powerful. It's only one notch up from shame, but guilt changes it from I'm a bad person to I've done a thing I don't want to, and I can take control of that and take some action steps and move forward. And then as you keep moving forward, the goal and the way I talk about it is you have to create this foundation that keeps you in integrity, because integrity is the opposite. Dignity is the opposite of guilt. Integrity is the opposite of shame. So as you make the journey, you get into integrity and you figure out what you need to do to stay in integrity. But then, like when it comes to slips or relapses, the interesting thing that you kind of just articulated is that neurologically, if you slip up, your brain basically takes you on that ride down the slippery slope, the chaser effect, they call it. And it has mechanisms that, like, if you allow your brain to get that dopamine drip, then you get that dopamine deluge, it will keep going, because dopamine is the pleasure seeking neurochemical. So then once you get it rolling again, full force at these high levels, what happens is it's insatiable. So until you kind of exhaust the cycle and you're back down, I call it the change point. This whole thing operates on a cycle. But the reason that people have slips and relapses, that's why I wanted to know what you attribute it to. And once you build the foundation, you can keep it. But slips and relapses are because a piece of the puzzle wasn't put into place. And this is what I'm saying, is that this thing is so involved for so many people that what I do is I try to teach people what all the pieces are, so they figure out which the important ones are for them. Then you have to actually do the work to be able to resolve each of the pieces. And so the way I talk about it, it's past, present, and future. And the past is you have to go back in the past. You only have to stay there as long as you need to, but you have to look at traumas, big T and little t traumas, dysfunction, neglect. I look at personality type so that you know what your basic desires and fears are. You look at those experiences and kind of look at your programming, how you've been programmed by your family and your environment, but how you've also programmed yourself in your reactions, and using porn is one of those. Then when in the present, you look at your routines and your habits, you look at your thoughts, you realize you're probably not feeling negative emotions, because if you're numbing out, you're not allowing negative emotions to be processed and integrated. And then when it comes to the future, being able to set goals, but it's not so simple as like, I'm going to set some goals. You have to figure out who your true self is, not the ego, and set goals that keep you on purpose. And it's, not the easiest process, but once you figure out those pieces and you move through, in the end, you end up with the foundation that is strong. And all you got to do is keep all those pieces in place, because you've explored and resolved them all.
Yeah. Got it. It's like a giant puzzle that we're putting together.
It's a giant puzzle. And if you know how to put it together, and, that's why I like people to know, when it comes, like, to go back to your idea of mindset, like, what's the mindset we can give people? The biggest mindset shift I think we can help people understand is that this is a journey. It's a process. It's not an event. It takes time for you to shift from ego to self. It takes time to unwire your brain, rewire it, and to hardwire in these new neural pathways. And that's why programs tend to be, 90 days, because 90 days gives you a really nice start to be able to do that. It's not a thing you can do on willpower alone. You can't go, when people on my channel will say, wish me luck, boys, here I go. I'll type in, change something now, anything. Yeah. Figure out what you need to change and change it, because you have to change things to get a different outcome.